Hello, everybody. Today's review is going to be of the movie Barbie from 3 years ago. Now, I looked through my list and didn't see that I'd done this review before, which I thought was kind of crazy, but I believe that around that time I was probably more into the gaming part of things. I think I was playing a lot of, oh god, it must have been Overwatch 2, and then I think I really got into like Call of Duty again for a little while, so I was really into the gaming for a long time. But over the last, I guess, almost 10 months now, I've been back into my reviews and I've really been enjoying it and I want to stick with it. So I've come up with a schedule at least now so that not completely burning myself out trying to keep up with the every other day uh, thing. Because that was too much sometimes. And then I felt like I was trying to do, like the whole quantity over quality thing. So I would rather take the time to, really enjoy doing it rather than making it feel like work. So the last few weeks, it's been a little bit better because, yeah, I've rather enjoyed doing what I'm doing again. So yeah, and that's not always easy to do. Sometimes you got to take breaks, but right now I don't feel like I need that. I feel like this is kind of like my break from my regular everyday job. Um, yeah, because this is like a hobby for me, obviously watching movies is a passion of mine. So yeah, I'm not gonna ever stop doing that. That's for sure. And television shows, but I really do need to get back into the reading. So yeah, I think I will try to get a couple more movie reviews in this weekend, and then maybe try to get a book done within a week. I just gotta pick which one I want to do first. Anyhow, I'm kind of rambling on now. So, when I first went to see this movie, we went to see it with a huge group of people from work, and a few of my other buddies joined us. I think we had a whole row filled in the movie theater, so that was kind of crazy. So, we'll go over the cast list. I did give this movie a 7 out of 10. I guess I must have just. I think I always rate the movie after I watch it, especially if it's in theaters. Like, I give it its rating right then and there because I want it locked in and, not have my mind changed based on what other people say. Like, that's how I felt about the movie, so that's what I'm going to give it. So we had Margot Robbie as Barbie, like the stereotypical Barbie. Ryan Gosling as Ken. Kate McKinnon as the weird Barbie. So, again, uh, I guess you could say that, like, obviously all of the Barbies were different, right? And um, then we had Simu Liu as Ken. So these two Kens were kind of competing throughout the movie. So I felt like that was kind of why um, it was important to name both of them, or yeah, name both of the actors who played both those Kens anyway, because they were kind of competing for the main Barbie in the movie, played by Margot, right? So it made sense as to why it was important to name both of them, obviously. And the big thing that I thought was kind of funny about this movie was that, obviously the focal point was supposed to be Barbie, right? But it ended up being that I think Ryan Gosling won an award for the movie for just his outstanding acting in it. And I mean, he was deserving of it. I feel like the Kens kind of stole the show a little bit from this movie. Not to take away from any of the other actors or actresses that were in this movie, because they all played their part well. Like, I think probably they were all deserving of an award just for their acting alone. Because yeah, it would be hard to act as like a totally just like blind to like everything around you, sort of like perfect version of yourself. Yeah, I feel like that would be very hard to do because nobody is perfect, right? Like 100% perfect. And anybody who actually thinks that is, I would say, has probably lost their minds because, yeah, nobody's perfect. We all have our faults. Um, and of course, there was obviously supposed to be like Barbie Land was living in like the female run, and like when they go into the real world, it's all run by men, right? So I guess it was supposed to be like a matriarchy in the Barbie world, and then the real world was supposed to be a patriarchy, right? But we'll talk more about that later. So Will Ferrell played the Mattel CEO, and then Michael Cera, who played Alan, who was supposed to be Ken's like best friend. Now, uh, so I want to touch on this. So obviously we know that like the whole Barbie and Ken have like kind of grown over the years, obviously, and there's many different versions of them, right? Um, but I guess Alan was just an original. Like there was only ever one made of him. But I guess all of Ken's clothes like fit him. That was one of the jokes that they made in the movie. So he was almost supposed to be like a I don't know, like a copy of Ken in a sense, but maybe they were trying to make something a little bit different and it just got discontinued like some of the other Barbies did. Like Manchu was like the pregnant Barbie, and then the one with the weird TV on her back or whatever. There was a couple other ones, obviously, that got discontinued too. Obviously, basically, probably, well, basically, from what I can understand, would be sales, right? Because Mattel would be want to make the money on all of their Barbies, and if they weren't making quota, then obviously that idea is going to get discontinued. Uh, but yeah, I feel like Barbie definitely paved the way for a lot of the other uh, big line dolls that came out, like Bratz, if you guys remember those from when we were kids, and Polly Pocket. Now, I don't think any of those are even in existence anymore. Probably Bratz is hard to find, or even like the Max Steel dolls. I think I had one of those when I was a kid. I ended up destroying it, but that's a whole nother story. Um, what else was there? Uh, I guess that would be kind of it for like dudes as far as like that went. Because yeah, other than that, there's like we're getting into like Transformers and stuff, and Barbie really I don't think had anything to do with that for sure. Um, we had America Ferrera as Gloria, who was this mother who was working for Mattel, seemed to have a pretty good paying job. I think she was in like the design department, um, from what I understood, or at least she was designing her own Barbie, um, or coming up with ideas, right? And she seems a little bit depressed, obviously, because her daughter's getting into the teenage years, and obviously not wanting to do the same thing she was when she was a little bit younger. Now, as far as teenage years go, that's still pretty young. Me myself at 32 now, I would consider 14 still kind of like a kid. Um, Even up until like the age of 20, I would say you're still basically a kid. At least to me, anyway. Yeah. Um, and then we had Rhea Perlman as Ruth, who was the uh, inventor of Barbie and basically like the name behind Mattel. So it was kind of cool to see, how many generations they had thrown this back. So they were really telling you like the history throughout the movie, as well as obviously trying to tell this story too, right? And then we had Helen Mirren as the narrator. So yeah, I'll look through my notes here because there were some important. Obviously, I write down stuff that can jog my memory for like the most important parts of the movie. So Barbie Land was definitely like a matriarchy, so run by the Barbies, right? And then the whole joke when they go into the real world was that it was all run by men, like a patriarchy. Now, I don't think we live in a patriarchal society, and I definitely don't think we live in a matriarchal society either. I think it's just run by the people who are the richest. That's who runs the world. Now, of course, most of them probably at the top are men, but I believe that anybody can, make it there if they really want to. And obviously, if you know people who are at the top, it's much easier to make it to the top for sure. Um, yeah, if you have the right people around you to push you to do like succeed at your goals, then eventually you will, sort of thing, right? So, and again, I think they were trying to, show the differences, obviously, between like what society would be like if it was run one way or the other. Now, the Kens were made to seem like a little bit of a lower class citizen, I guess, or at least that's kind of what I got from it. The Kens were obviously all trying to, find the Barbie they were most compatible with, almost, and the Barbies were kind of like oblivious to the fact that the Kens even would want like a relationship with them, and they were always like having their girls' nights and their huge like dance parties, and even though they were around the Kens, they kind of just ignored them. Because I guess, yeah, the Kens were there to be there for the Barbies, but not really be with the Barbies. If that makes any sense, it was kind of a weird society in Barbie Land, wasn't it? But they do start off with the parody of the 2001: A Space Odyssey intro, talking about how all the little girls played with like the dolls, but all the dolls were like the babies. Obviously, until Barbie came along, and then kind of, I guess, shattered that whole um, like young girl playing like the motherly role, in a sense, which is kind of, I mean, I can see the point in it with the baby dolls, but also it's a little creepy to be having a kid think about that at such a young age. Like you don't know you want to be a mother at like 3 or 4. I mean, who knows? Maybe some kids do, but I would think that would be on the top of your priority list at that age. Um, I guess I kind of knew pretty young that I always wanted to have kids, but I don't think I was thinking about that at 4. I probably wasn't thinking about that until I was like 9 or 10, maybe a little younger. But yeah, yeah, I knew pretty young that I did want kids. So who knows? Maybe it does happen, but I wouldn't think that was something I would be thinking about at that young of an age. But I guess it was kind of obviously, as time goes on, right? Things start to change, so it makes sense. Um, so then Barbie has these weird thoughts of death, and she begins to like malfunction. So everything is supposed to be like perfect. You wake up, you have your breakfast, you go out with your friends, sort of thing. Like there is no, thinking about, oh, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? Sort of thing in the whole Barbie land, right? Like everything's supposed to be like perfect. So then when she has the cold shower and her toast is burnt and the milk's gone bad, like she's like, okay, something is completely out of whack. And then all the Barbies walk on like their tiptoes because they're always in like high heel shoes. And so her feet go flat. She's like, "Oh my god, what have I like?" Then all the other Barbies like, "You're malfunctioning. You have to go see Weird Barbie." And of course, I guess Weird Barbie was the one that got played with a little too hard, and then the kid kind of went nuts on it and drew a whole bunch of stuff on the face and uh, broke it and dyed the hair a whole bunch of different weird colors. So yeah, uh, definitely Weird Barbie has been through it. That's for sure. And she wasn't always that way. I guess at one point she was, kind of more like the rest of them. But uh, I guess the kid that was playing with her obviously didn't want to be anymore and made her ugly, right? I guess that was supposed to be like kind of the message there. So yeah, Barbie gets transported to the real world to meet up with the kid, or at least that's what she thinks. The kid that's no longer like in love with her anymore. Not in like a, like I love you sort of sense, but like doesn't love the feeling of playing with the Barbies anymore. So she's supposed to go back and kind of, I guess, help close that rift. Now, of course, obviously, I guess when Barbie goes, Ken wants to come with her, right? So Barbie and Ken both go. And of course, it seems like Mattel only really cares about getting Barbie back to Barbie Land because uh, I guess bad things have happened in the past when other Barbies have escaped. So yeah, they definitely want to get her back to her own world and just have things go like kind of run its course, sort of thing. Now Barbie starts to notice that there is no female representation at the top of uh, Mattel. Now, of course, Will Ferrell's character says, they have had female CEOs in the past, and, right now it might be a little male driven, but they still care just as much as the previous owners. And again, I understand that, sometimes it might be tougher uh, to compete, but there's nothing wrong with friendly competition. I feel like, and men and women all have their differences. There's certain things that men are better at than women, and there's certain things that women are better at than men. I'm not afraid to admit that. Um, but yeah, I think the whole thing about, trying to be better than a man or trying to be better than a woman, no matter who you are, kind of, takes away from the whole, having differences thing. There's nothing wrong with being different. If we were all the same, can you imagine how boring that would be? Like if we were all trying to be the exact same person or compete for the exact same job. And yeah, obviously there's going to be jobs that women want to take that men wouldn't ever want to take, and there's going to be jobs that men take that women probably wouldn't ever want to take. Now, I will say, as far as trades go, I will say that there has been quite a increase in women over the last probably 15, 20 years that have entered trades. So, yeah, I mean, good for them. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But don't feel forced to do something just because society tells you that you should, right? Because then you'll just be miserable. You'll never really be happy unless you're doing what you want to be doing. So, yeah, just strive for your goals and do what makes you feel happy. And I think that kind of was one of the messages in this movie. But also, I know they were trying to, they were obviously making the jokes about feminism and how Barbie completely, took away all the problems of modern day feminism and so on and so forth. So yeah, they were making jabs at it, right? And obviously jabs at the whole patriarchy thing, and Ken thinking that it was just all about, oh my god, all about trucks and horses, and not really realizing that it was completely a male dominated world. And the women were the second class citizens, right? Now, I guess he had almost done that without even realizing what a patriarchy truly was. He had just kind of told them that, men were more appreciated, I guess, in the real world compared to Barbie Land. And the Barbies kind of fell for it a little bit and just kind of completely changed their tune to, serving the Kens in a sense. But it was almost like that's what the Kens were doing in the beginning, right? Was serving Barbie, and the whole job about beach, that's not a job. You're just there on the beach to beach. And none of the Kens even knew what that meant. So that's what I mean. He wasn't really fully understanding what a patriarchy was, but he had somehow almost pulled it off without even realizing he'd done it. And he changed the Barbie's houses into his what was it? Dojo something Casa house, and Casa means house. So he almost got Sasha to say it with him, which was funny. And Gloria was like, "Don't do that. Don't fall into his trap, right?" But the plan at the end was a little weird for the Barbies, because the Barbies almost did exactly what they were doing already with the Kens. Giving them what they wanted, and then feeding off of their jealousy, I guess, a little bit, to make them all mad at one another. And then they were able to, obviously, flip Barbie Land back to what it was and make it a female-run world again, right? So, I mean, I guess it was kind of smart, because, obviously, the Kens wouldn't be used to, all of the Barbies competing for them the same way that the Kens were, so they just kind of reversed the roles, and then played on their jealousy, right? Because they were already kind of doing that in the beginning between themselves anyway, right, when they were competing for the Barbies. So it wouldn't be that hard to do, I guess, with the Kens for sure. So anyway, yeah, they were able to flip it and then make it so that the Kens were fighting on the beach the entire time while they were back voting again as to what the Barbies were going to do to make Barbie Land again. And then they did it, and they try to tell the Kens to find themselves and who they really are at the end. So I guess that's kind of a powerful message, because yeah, all the Barbies kind of had like their awakening in a sense to like, obviously, especially after being in the real world for one of them. She decides that she doesn't want to be a Barbie anymore and she actually wants to live out the rest of her life as a human. So Ruth transports her back to the real world to live her life out as a human. And she says, you know, humans live out a life, so you won't be around forever anymore. And she comes to terms with that, which is a pretty powerful thing because if you'd been a doll your entire life and you knew you were going to live forever, no matter what, um, I think that would be a pretty big decision to make. But again, that's kind of like the whole thing about do what makes you happy sort of thing, which I think was the message right there, right? Like, don't feel forced to do something just because society tells you that it's the right thing to do. Like, think for yourself, sort of thing. And then obviously, the big number in this was the I'm Just Ken song, which I think was probably what really stole it for the Kens in this movie. Yeah, then again, Ruth being the inventor of Barbie. And I guess the big thing was that Ruth named Barbie after her daughter Barbara. So, yeah, there was a lot of personal stuff in this movie for sure. Uh, what else can I say? The only thing that really threw me off was the whole speech at the end because it felt like the whole movie had not really taken itself that seriously up until that point, and then yeah, it was Gloria kind of gives this whole big speech about how tough it is to be a woman and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to be a woman, and sometimes it's definitely not easy to be a man either. We have our societal standards too that are always pushed on us, right? But I understand that you're supposed to be like rough and tough all the time when you're a dude and not show any emotions, but my god, if you're a dude and you haven't cried at something at some point in your life, I don't even think you really have a heart. But yeah, because that's just crazy. Like, I'm not ashamed to admit that I've cried at movies and definitely cried when I've lost family members. So yeah, it's life is not always easy. It's going to kick you, and sometimes it's going to keep kicking you until you've hit rock bottom. But you always have to pick yourself back up and just go on, no matter what, right? Because yeah, you're not just living for yourself; you're living for those around you too. So it's important to, yeah, make yourself happy, and obviously the loved ones that we've lost would want us to realize that, that they're looking down on us and realizing that they've kind of left us behind, but they want us to keep living on a happy life. So yeah, I feel like that was kind of another maybe message in this too. Um, but yeah, I feel like that was almost like a really weird turning point in this movie was the serious speech at the end. And I'm not saying it wasn't maybe important, but it just kind of felt like it threw the movie off a little bit after not taking itself so seriously. And the personal little bits with Ruth were great because, yeah, she was the creator. Like, she was Mattel, basically. So, yeah, it made sense to have that there. But, yeah, the whole weird feminism speech after, kind of making fun of it a little bit and making fun of patriarchy, I just thought that was a weird twist. So, yeah, that's why I think I bumped it down from, like, probably... It probably bumped it down a point for me, I would say. But anyway, um, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say about this movie, and I guess I will see you guys in the next review. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, am I? That I wanted to touch on? No, I guess not. Um, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.